Imagine a human so powerful they could snap your arm like a twig, and yet vanish from the earth without a trace. We've painted Neanderthals as brutish, barrel-chested superhumans, stronger than us, tougher than us, maybe even better than us. But how strong were they really, and what secrets lie behind their raw, almost mythical power? This isn't just a story about ancient bones, it's the rise and fall of a species built like tanks and lost to time. Let's dig in. To explore just how strong the Neanderthals were, we have to wind back the clock a few thousand years, back to a time when strength was the difference between living to see another day and becoming a fossil to be discovered years later by curious archaeologists. See, in the vast icy expanses of the Pleistocene epoch, Neanderthals thrived as formidable beings, far from the primitive brute stereotypes often associated with them. Their robust physiques and advanced cognitive abilities allowed them to navigate, adapt, and dominate the harsh landscapes of Ice Age Europe and Western Asia. Our ancient cousins were highly skilled hunters who used nearly 7-foot-long spears made from sturdy wood and fire-hardened tips. These spears were not crude tools, but carefully crafted weapons that reflected their intelligence, craftsmanship, and strategic approach to hunting. But just how much can you do with a spear against giant bears, cave lions, and prehistoric elephants that stand more than 10 feet tall? The answer to that is a lot. See, the effectiveness of Neanderthal hunting techniques is evident in archaeological discoveries, such as the Schöningen spears found alongside the remains of 35 horses in Germany. These spears weren't merely thrown, they were wielded with immense force in close-range combat, telling us that these cavemen were blessed with physical power and tactical skill. Unlike the common perception of mindless brawlers, Neanderthals were apex predators who hunted in coordinated groups, relying on strategy and teamwork as much as brute strength. Now that this is established, the question still stands: just how strong were they? Well, if their upper body was anything to go by, then the answer is a lot more complicated. According to studies, their upper body strength was nothing short of incredible. Fossil evidence reveals that Neanderthals had thicker, denser bones and exceptionally powerful muscles, particularly in their arms and shoulders. As a matter of fact, further studies have shown that their right arms in particular show signs of being far stronger than their left, possibly due to repetitive tasks like thrusting spears or scraping animal hides for clothing and shelter. Let's make it easier to understand. Imagine the physical toll of processing the tough, sinewy hides of Ice Age megafauna day after day. This is a time when you shared a home with bears taller than the Kodiak bear, lions twice the size of a lion, hyenas that look like wolves, and of course, wolves that stalked your every move. For these ancient survivors, it wasn't just about survival. It was about endurance, raw power, and adaptation to a world that demanded nothing less. The rules were simple: may the strongest creature win, and seeing as they were still an apex predator, you probably have an idea of just how absurd their strength was. If you're still wondering what, it all has to do with evolution and, well, their anatomy. Let's break it down, bit by bit. So what made Neanderthals so formidable in the first place? It really all comes down to the very bones and muscles that made them the towering giants of their time. Let's start with their skulls. Unlike modern humans, Neanderthals possessed a robust, elongated skull with a pronounced brow ridge that worked like a protective helmet. This structure wasn't merely decorative. It shielded vital brain areas while providing a sturdy anchor for powerful jaw muscles capable of chewing through tough, raw food. Now, it might seem like overkill, but such a design was crucial for survival, much like how well-engineered safety helmets protect a worker on a construction site. Moving down to their ribcage and thorax, Neanderthals boasted a deep and wide chest that can be compared to a high-performance engine's combustion chamber. This expansive thoracic cavity allowed for a larger lung capacity, delivering extra oxygen for those bursts of energy needed during intense physical exertion. Whether it was taking down large prey or engaging in fierce combat, their enhanced oxygen intake gave them a significant advantage, similar to the boost an engine gets from a finely tuned air intake system. But perhaps the biggest curveball is the fact that their limbs tell another story entirely. Weirdly, in contrast to the longer, more graceful limbs of modern humans, Neanderthals had shorter, stockier arms and legs. Now, you would think to throw spears you would need longer limbs, but to this, I say, think again. To understand what I mean, think of the difference between a sprinter and a weightlifter. The sprinter's long limbs favor endurance, while the weightlifter's compact build is optimized for power and stability. Besides this as a power boost, Neanderthals' shorter limbs not only helped them conserve heat in cold climates, but also provided a lower center of gravity, ensuring that every step was stable and forceful. Overall, their body was a design feature that turned out to be as essential as the sturdy chassis of a heavy, juicy truck. This design becomes even more astonishing when you look at their hands, because their hands further highlight their extraordinary physical prowess. With broader fingertips and shorter, wider phalanges, their grip was as secure as a mechanic's vice. This exceptional grip strength was indispensable when handling heavy tools or subduing enormous prey like mammoths or woolly rhinos. Every weapon they threw was powered by a natural ability to hold objects like their life depended on it. And to be honest, 9 times out of 10, it did. In case you were wondering, this grip strength is a trait that modern humans can only aspire to replicate in specialized athletic feats. Now, we can't talk about anatomy without mentioning the blueprint itself. As you would expect, genetics also play a pivotal role in shaping their strength. Although modern humans share about 99.9% of their DNA with Neanderthals, key genetic variations make all the difference. For example, variations in the LRP5 gene contributed to significantly higher bone density, making their design similar to constructing a building with reinforced concrete. This genetic endowment not only provided a robust skeletal framework, but also promoted greater overall muscle mass, ensuring that their muscles could generate explosive power in short, concentrated bursts. Essentially, Neanderthals were biologically engineered for a world where every moment demanded maximum performance. Their fortified skulls acted like protective helmets. Their expansive chests resembled high-performance engines ready to deliver a burst of energy, and their compact limbs provided both stability and raw power. With vice-like grips and genetically reinforced bones, these apex predators were the world's first powerlifters. In the end, their formidable power was not just a product of brute force, but a harmonious blend of anatomical design and genetic innovation. In a contest where only the strongest survived, Neanderthals didn't just compete, they reigned supreme. To give you an idea of what we're dealing with, let's bring our ancient cousin to 2025. If a Neanderthal walked into a modern gym, they wouldn't just be strong. They would be a biological powerhouse, effortlessly outlifting today's elite athletes without ever having trained for it. Neanderthals were built for raw, brute power in a way that no modern human, no matter how trained, could match. Let's start with the classic test of upper body strength, the bench press. The strongest modern powerlifters can push up to 700 pounds or 370 kilograms, but Neanderthals, their sheer muscle mass nearly double that of modern humans in key areas like the chest, arms, and shoulders. Basically, this suggests they could easily exceed 700 pounds, possibly even reaching 1,000 pounds or 453 kilograms or more. To make it more insane, their dense bones meant they could handle extreme loads without the risk of fractures, making their brute pressing power almost superhuman by today's standards. Moving on, if you think a professional arm wrestler has a strong grip, a Neanderthal would make them look weak by comparison. Their shorter, thicker fingers and massive hand muscles gave them grip strength beyond anything seen in modern humans. In fact, studies on Neanderthal hand fossils suggest their crushing force was nearly twice that of the strongest modern humans, meaning they could potentially snap wooden spears like twigs or crush bones with their bare hands. Imagine shaking hands with a Neanderthal. Your fingers might never recover. Now, while that's scary, their deadlifts would be even worse. See, while the bench press measures pushing strength, a deadlift is a better test of raw pulling power. Modern strong men can deadlift over 1,100 pounds or 500 kilograms, but Neanderthals had thicker spines, denser bones, and incredibly powerful legs, suggesting they could have matched or even exceeded these feats. More importantly, Neanderthals weren't just lifting weights in a gym, they were carrying entire animal carcasses for miles. Fossil evidence shows their bones adapted to extreme stress, meaning they could probably carry or drag several hundred pounds of meat and supplies across rugged Ice Age terrain without breaking a sweat. Okay, take away the weapons. What if they took up boxing? With their insane upper body strength and massive arms, Neanderthals likely had a punch that could shatter bones. Modern studies on punch force estimate that elite boxers can generate about 1,200 to 1,500 pounds of force with a punch. Given their superior muscle density and grip strength, the Neanderthal's punch might have been closer to 2,000 or 3,000 pounds of force, enough to break a human skull with a single blow. With all this said, it's an understatement to call them strong. But did it matter? Because they didn't need to carry weights. They needed to hunt, So once again, did it matter? At this point, it should come as no surprise that the Neanderthals ruled the hunt in the Pleistocene epoch with a power forged by evolution, anatomy, and a keen sense of strategy. But here's the thing, they did it on an unprecedented scale. Their robust physiques, advanced tools, and cooperative hunting methods allowed them to take on megafauna like mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, and giant elk. We're talking about prey as formidable as the most challenging modern-day obstacles. Their success is evidenced by findings at La Côte de Saint-Brelard on Jersey, where heaps of butchered mammoth bones reveal that Neanderthals drove these colossal beasts over cliffs to ease the kill. It's basically the same thing as modern engineers using controlled demolitions to bring down a structure efficiently. This method not only highlighted their strength, but also their ability to manipulate terrain to their advantage. Physically, Neanderthals were built like high-performance machines, and every muscle was honed for one purpose, to overcome nature's most dangerous creatures. However, their hunting strategies were as coordinated as a well-rehearsed sport team. See, unlike Homo sapiens, who would chase prey for days, Neanderthals operated in groups using cooperative tactics that allowed them to isolate and take down animals much larger than themselves. This collective approach was not only about dividing the risk, but also about synchronizing every move, much like a team of rowers working in perfect unison. Besides this, coordination ambush tactics were also a key element of their strategy. By exploiting the predictable behavior of their prey near watering holes or along migratory paths, they set up natural traps similar to strategically placed barriers in modern security systems. To wrap it all up, their tool use was remarkably innovative. Instead of relying solely on thrown spears, they sometimes planted these weapons at an angle in the ground, so that charging animals impaled themselves, a method that harnessed the prey's own momentum to ensure a cleaner, more efficient kill. Sure, every part of their anatomy contributed to this power to hunt, but perhaps their strongest muscle was the one that controlled it all, their brains. And if that's the case, our ancient cousins have once again reinforced their role as masters of survival in a relentless, ice-bound world. But the question with such strength is, why did the strongest humans die out? Surprisingly, despite their formidable physical strength, Neanderthals, the strongest humans of their time, died out around 40,000 years ago. Their extinction was not the result of a single catastrophic event, but rather a complex interplay of factors involving competition, environmental change, and inherent limitations in their own physiology and social structures. One major factor was the competitive advantage held by Homo sapiens. While Neanderthal groups were relatively small and isolated, modern humans forged extensive social networks that spanned vast regions. These networks functioned like modern-day global supply chains, facilitating the exchange of resources, ideas, and genetic diversity. Such interconnectedness proved vital during periods of scarcity, giving Homo sapiens a distinct edge in survival over their more insular counterparts. In addition, Homo sapiens exhibited a level of cultural and technological innovation that surpassed that of Neanderthals. They developed specialized tools and engaged in symbolic activities that enhanced their ability to adapt to varied and changing environments. This advanced toolmaking and symbolic expression not only reflected superior cognitive abilities, but also strengthened social cohesion, making collective problem-solving more effective. But you can't completely blame us, because environmental challenges further compounded the Neanderthals' plight. See, abrupt climatic fluctuations during the Ice Age led to drastic habitat changes and a decline in the large game that formed the core of Neanderthals' diets. These megafauna were like high-calorie fuel, essential for powering their robust, muscle-dense bodies. When the food supply dwindled, the high metabolic demands of their powerful frames became a critical liability. Essentially, there was no fuel for the high-performance humans. In contrast, Homo sapiens, with their leaner builds and adaptations for endurance and mobility, were better suited to traverse longer distances in search of sustenance. To make it worse, the limited genetic diversity within Neanderthal populations reduced their resilience against diseases and environmental pressures. Although interbreeding between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens did occur, the genetic input was insufficient to overcome the challenges they faced. Essentially, while Neanderthals were physically the strongest humans, their isolation, high energy requirements, and a slower rate of cultural innovation left them vulnerable. The superior social networks, technological advances, and adaptive endurance of Homo sapiens ultimately tipped the scales, ensuring their survival, while the powerful Neanderthals faded into history. So what's your take? Were Neanderthals the prehistoric powerlifters of legend, or just one piece of a much bigger survival puzzle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. And if you're hooked on the mysteries of our ancient past, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. More incredible stories from human evolution are just around the corner.